First of all, thank you for inviting me to this meetup. I love talking about the uMarketingSuite, and I can do that for days. I only got 45 minutes, so I'm speeding it up. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. If I do so, we have 50 minutes at the end where we can do Q&A. If it's correct, you're seeing my screen now?
Yep, we can see it, all good. And yeah, I don't think we have a hard stop at 45 minutes. So yeah,
Okay.
you can continue for 1 hour and we can have a bit of extra time. That's fine.
Then I'm gonna take the rest of the evening for all people in Australia, the rest of the day of all Europe-based people. First of all, my name is Jeffrey Schoenmaker, if you pronounce it like we do in the Netherlands. I'm the owner of Perplex Digital. Perplex Digital is a Umbraco Gold partner in the Netherlands. And we've been working with Umbraco since 11 years. And also my experience was the first website that I built was in Umbraco 4 with XSLT and stuff like that. It was really cool. And I'm the co-founder of the uMarketingSuite. And I've been nominated Umbraco MVP 4 years in a row now. Really proud on that. And just to put it into some perspective, Australia's over here. And we are based over here in the Netherlands. Here's Umbraco HQ. So it's quite some time and quite some time zones as a difference. And this was a picture this weekend. We had a lot of snow. We haven't had snow for 10 years now, but it was a lot of snow this weekend. So this is also a bit of perspective compared to the Australian people who are sitting in their t-shirts with 30 degrees. It's quite some cold here. And about Perplex, I don't know if you've heard of the Umbraco Awards, but these awards are being nominated each and every year by Umbraco HQ during Code Garden. And we were really proud that we won the best custom solution 3 years in a row and best gold partner solution with our Umbraco implementations in the last 2 years for the best gold partner solution. And the reason that I'm putting in this slide is because what we did is take all that experience of the last couple of years and put that into the uMarketingSuite with the goal to spread the uMarketingSuite across the world and let everybody use it to create the best custom solutions for their clients. So that is important to know. And why did we start building the uMarketingSuite? This is a picture that I had in a Code Garden presentation 2 years ago. And I call it the CMS pyramid, where you see on the top you have the enterprise CMSs, and on the bottom you have the CMSs for smaller websites. There are a lot of WordPress websites in the world, and there are only a few Sitecore, Episerver, or Kentico websites in the world compared to WordPress. And Umbraco is a bit stuck in the middle, in my opinion. And in my opinion, Umbraco should be heading towards the enterprise CMSs. And with the uMarketingSuite, we want to create a marketing toolbox that bridges the gap of some of the functionalities that are missing in Umbraco out of the box, and that the enterprise CMSs has out of the box. So that is maybe good to know. I'm doing a bit of PowerPoint, by the way, and then I'm heading over to the demo, which is far cooler than PowerPoint, but it's good for a first introduction. Well, we've been working on the uMarketingSuite for 2 years now. We've launched it last year in May, I guess, and we're at this moment at version 1.8. And if you look at it from a technical perspective, you have the Umbraco CMS layer on the bottom. It's built on the .NET framework. On top of the Umbraco CMS, you're building your website. And if you have your website, or if you're building your website, you can put the uMarketingSuite on top. So it's really a separate layer in your architecture. And the most important thing about the uMarketingSuite is the data analytics layer. We're storing all the data that we're using in the uMarketingSuite. So in your database or the database that you specify. We do not rely on any external toolings like Google Analytics or anything else like that. No, we're storing it in the uMarketingSuite. And with that data foundation layer, we can do cool stuff like A/B testing, personalization, creating profiles. And if we have that in place, we can also go to marketing automation to take it even a step further. If you install the uMarketingSuite, and it's basically a NuGet package, or you can download it from our Umbraco forum, you can set it up and it should be up and running in 5 to 10 minutes. And when you install it, you will get access to the marketing section. And within this marketing section, we have different sections for the different functionalities like analytics, A/B testing, personalization, some settings, etc. And if we look into analytics, the special thing is that all data is recorded server-side. So out of the box, it works with a server-side recording and not a client-side implementation like Google Analytics, for example, does. The data that we record is everything that a typical web server gets when somebody's requesting a web page, like on which time did they visit which page, which browser did they do it. By default, we're anonymizing the IP address. Depends a bit on the legislation, but we in Europe have the GDPR, where we cannot store IP addresses out of the box. So we're anonymizing it. We're storing where you came from, the location, etc., etc. We also give you the opportunity to add a client-side script for capturing behavioral data, like scroll depth, engage time on page, if you viewed videos on the website, if you searched on the website, if you clicked out to other websites, etc. We're all storing that in the uMarketingSuite database in a really efficient way. And from a European, not from a British perspective, but from a European or EU perspective, GDPR is a big thing. And it's totally GDPR compliant because you own the data. Compared to, again, for example, Google Analytics, where Google is the owner of the data and you only can reuse it, but you're not owning the data. In our implementation, you're really owning the data. The data is stored in your database. And the cool thing is, because we're using first-party cookies, it's ad blocker resistant. So what we see is that we're capturing 20% to 30% more data than, for example, Google Analytics, because you cannot block the uMarketingSuite because everything is recorded server-side. So we really see differences when you have both tools installed on your website. I will do, in the demo, I will go deep dive a bit more into the analytics part. And with this analytics in place, we can do cool things like A/B testing. And A/B testing is serving different variants of a web page or a website to different visitors and see which variant is performing best. You can do that on a single page. We can do that on multiple pages, but because it's integrated within Umbraco, the uMarketingSuite is also aware of concepts like document types, which is of course really Umbraco specific, but you can A/B test a document type where you say, okay, half of the visitors will see the normal variant and half of the visitors will see a variant plus some additional CSS or a different template, etc. So what we're, for example, are testing on our own website, this is the pricing page. And then in a Friday afternoon, one of the marketers came up to me, okay, I think we should have a different pricing page. Can I put it live? I said, no, we cannot put it live, but we can test it, whether it's performing better, because that in the end was the goal of the optimization. So this is one variant. This is another where we're highlighting, for example, the most popular version. And this is the third variant. And I don't really have an opinion which is going to work best, but we're just A/B testing it. And we did it really in an hour where our front-end person did some magical CSS to put this into place. And now we're testing which variant is working best. And that's a, in my opinion, way better approach of doing releases than just putting something live and looking at the data. Now you have to test it before you can tell which is working best. If you will look it up in Umbraco, you will see this. You have 3 different variants. You have different numbers of visitors looking at these variants. We see the goal completions and the conversion rate for these. And we see at this moment, pricing page 2 is leading. That is the variant with these blocks. And we're just running this test for a while. If you now go to uMarketingSuite.com/pricing, you will see that you get served one of the 3 variants. And Umbraco is, or the uMarketingSuite together with Umbraco is handling all the magic that needs to be done. And the only thing we did was tweaking some CSS. And that's also the promise that we make as the uMarketingSuite. It should be really, really easy to use toolbox for marketers to start optimizing their website. In this case, we had to write some CSS, but we also will see that we're just reusing the editor of Umbraco in a while. So from a visual perspective, we try to make it as native Umbraco as possible, but we're adding some of our own magic into there. And we're trying to create helpful text so everybody can start A/B testing within minutes. The coolest thing, we will also see this in the demo, is the split view. Umbraco introduced the split view for language editing in Umbraco 8, and we are reusing it for variants. And the cool thing is that on the left you have the original page, and on the right side we have the A/B variant, where we're gonna where we can specify which properties we want to test and add in a different image or pick a different font or color theme depending on the properties that you have in Umbraco. So you can really do that side by side, and the editor is familiar with the experience, and they can start A/B testing in no time. We saw this previous also. You can have as many variants that you want, but please be aware, the more variants you create, the more visitors do you need before something becomes reliable. So that is something that you should be aware of when testing small websites, for example, like uMarketingSuite.com. Before we go to the demo of personalization, first a bit of context for personalization. With the uMarketingSuite, you can personalize the website experience of your visitors based on explicit data. And explicit data is data that is always giving a yes or a no, like which browser are you using? I want to personalize the website experience for Firefox users, for example. That is something that is typically true or false. There's no in-between state. Or after 6 o'clock in the evening, I don't want to show my telephone number on the website of our company anymore. That is true or false. Of course, depending on the time zone, but there's no discussion about that. Whether somebody is logged in or not logged in. True or false, really explicit data. But what we also do with the uMarketingSuite is that we create an algorithm that is based on behavior, and we can personalize the website based on that behavior. We call it implicit personalization. We are using the concept of customer journey and persona. The customer journey is the journey that somebody goes through from consideration of doing something with your product or with your company to finally purchasing a product or getting into contact, filling in the contact form, etc. That is typically a journey that people are going through, and we are reusing that idea in the website and also for different personas. Once again, almost demo time. In the uMarketingSuite, we, for example, have two different personas: the data and privacy officer, who will be more interested in the GDPR compliancy or the ownership of the data, and the marketer. Well, and if you go to the website, for example, you want to show the all-in-one marketing suite for Umbraco, but if the algorithm detects that you're a data and privacy officer, maybe it makes more sense to show them full control over your own data and show them a different image or something like that. And that's where personalization is all about, in our opinion. To get started with personalization, it are essentially 4 steps, but we have two steps to get started. First, you should start collecting data, because personalization is never the goal at itself. The goal is always conversion optimization or giving a better experience to your customer. And personalization is a way to achieve that. And to do that, we need to start collecting data. Well, as soon as you install the uMarketingSuite on your website, you will start collecting data. Then you should set up some KPIs to track whether the personalization is doing what you hope it's going to do. You should come up with an ID or a hypothesis if it's coming to A/B testing. Okay, what is that I want to achieve, and what do I hope that will be the result of this personalization? You can create a segment for your visitors. Okay, I want to personalize the website experience for these visitors compared to the other visitors. We're going to implement the personalization. And in my opinion, one of the most important steps are analyzing the success of your personalization, because that is what you want to do. Are the KPIs better than before? If not, iterate, come up with a new idea, implement new personalization, and analyze again. So you have a constant flow. And also from a business perspective or an agency's perspective, I think this is the most interesting to pitch to your clients, that it's not a one-time thing that you're doing. No, you should constantly be in this loop, analyzing your personalization, optimizing your personalization, tweaking your personalization, and analyzing it again. But enough PowerPoint for now. I will end with some PowerPoint. Let's go over to the demo. And for Andrew, sorry, you saw this yesterday as well, but maybe the second time it's even more impressive than the first time.
It is very impressive.
Thanks. I'm gonna demo it on the website www.umarketingsuite.com. So this is kind of inception, where we are using the uMarketingSuite on the uMarketingSuite.com website, but I think it makes sense. And then we have actual data. This is your typical Umbraco website, not much special. Text pages, a pricing page, partners, roadmap, a blog with different blog posts where you can read more data, etc. If we looking at the back end to Umbraco, and I'm using the correct login, this one, we have our typical Umbraco structure. A home page with properties, text pages, blog pages, etc. Just a normal, or yeah, in my opinion, a pretty normal Umbraco website. But what is new if you install the uMarketingSuite is the marketing section. And in the marketing section, you have access to analytics, A/B testing, and personalization and settings at this moment. We're working on the dashboard. I will show the PowerPoint within, or the thing we're creating within a few, or at the end of this presentation. But if you go to analytics, refreshing it for a moment, you will see all the data that you're used or familiar with when using Google Analytics or something like that, but in your served from your own database. You have the option to select date ranges. You can compare date ranges. You can group this data by week or by month or by day. I hope you see, and although the numbers are a bit low compared to the bigger websites that we're using it on, is that it's really snappy and really performing because it's all served from your own database. And that is often much quicker than any external tool. We can see in depth which pages did people visit mostly, pagination, etc. We can look at new versus returning visitors. Oh, I put the comparison on. New versus returning visitors on our website. Which browsers did they use? And if I have a browser, which specific version did they use? Goals can be set up. So we can see people achieving registrations or registering for a dev license, etc. Where did people come from? For example, on Umbraco.com, from these blogs or from the homepage or stuff like that. Which devices did they use? Which events? You can set up custom events, which were ones were triggered, and which bots came by. And I think this specific graph is pretty interesting because you can also see if Google bot, for example, when did it come by and to which pages did it visit? And also, is mobile indexing a thing? Well, you see here that the mobile bot of Google compared to the desktop bot is, well, pretty much 50-50. I think it's 60-40%. So you can keep track of Google bot coming by to different pages, for example. Because in this case, we have the analytics in the marketing section, but also on a content level. For example, on the homepage, you can see the specific data for this specific page. And how often did Google bot, for example, come by on the homepage? And do we see a difference, or what is Google bot doing over here? But also on, for example, the pricing page. So you always have the data in context of your Umbraco content. And especially the editors love this, because most of the editors that we have or we see in our implementations love creating content, but they forget to look at Google Analytics, for example, because it's just another tool that they're not reusing quite that much. And here they have it in context. They only have to go to the content app and see how the page is performing, etc. And what we can do is relate the data in the graph to data that we already have. For example, in Umbraco, we know when this page was published, or when an A/B test started, or when a page was saved, etc. And you can add in your own annotations as well. So you can see, or you can relate spikes or anything else like that into, in this case, Twitter messages or publishes of pages. So that's really cool, in my opinion. Due to time, I'm going to skip the A/B testing, but I think just download it at the end, the uMarketingSuite, put it on your favorite V8 website and start A/B testing yourself. It's really, it looks a bit like personalization, but it's based on randomness instead of a plan or a segment. And I'm going to look at personalization now. You can put in personas and customer journeys. And you can create different groups of personas. And maybe you need a marketer to grasp the context of personas and customer journeys. I'm not the best guy to explain that probably as well. But if you have a plan, if you have persona, if you have a customer journey, you can really set it up really easily in the uMarketingSuite. You can create new personas, give them an image, select a color, etc. And for example, in the uMarketingSuite, we have the data and privacy officer. That is a specific target. We have the marketer, we have a company owner, we have developers at an Umbraco agency, for example. Most of the people in this meetup are probably a developer at an Umbraco agency, and also marketing at an Umbraco agency. What we eventually want to do is give all these personas a different experience on the website. The same is true for the customer journey. We default ship with See, Think, Do, Care, the default customer journey of Google, but you can also add in your own customer journey or delete the first one. For example, for the uMarketingSuite, we're going from awareness to interest to downloading a trial version to purchasing your first license, retention, and loyalty. So whatever customer journey you have, you can set it up in here. And with this customer journey setup, you can score the behavior of your visitors. And we're doing that by assigning points to them. For example, with here referrals, where did people come from before they went to uMarketingSuite.com? We created some groups. And for example, we have blogs and URLs for developers. And if we look into this, I've done this previously, but if people are coming from Umbraco.com, the product update of May 29th, then probably, or our assumption is that people who are reading this blog are developers. Also, if you come from documentation.uMarketingSuite.com, you're probably a developer. If you come from script.io, typically a blog for developers, in our opinion. And we say everybody who is coming from these blogs will get 10 points on the developer persona and 0 points on the rest. And maybe a marketer is reading one of these blogs once, but it's not totally obvious to us, because when we're talking about blogs or URLs for marketers, we, for example, see Umbraco.com, the App Store, in the Umbraco section. Typically for us, something that marketers will visit. So we have marketers, an Umbraco agency, and also as the company and company owner, for example, we can give that person 7 points, and people are typically in the first phase of a customer journey. So if people come from those websites, they get points from us. And you can score all kinds of things. By default referral, but you can also hook it up to your CRM, for example. What you also can do is score your content. For example, I've written a blog about privacy, trust, and third-party cookies, about how cool the uMarketingSuite is, and we're using first-party cookies and ethical marketing, etc., etc. Typically something that if you're interested in this and you want to read this or reading this or revisiting this blog page, I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna score the content. This is typically something that a company data and privacy officer is reading. If you're interested in privacy, this is a typical blog that you're using. And by scoring your content in this way, you're forcing the editor to think, okay, this blog article, who is my public, who is my audience, and how am I making the best content for this persona, but also feeding the algorithm to determine at one point which content do I need to serve. But before I'm gonna demo that, I'm going back to the marketing section, go to personalization, and show you the concept of segments. Because eventually we want to personalize websites based on the segment. We're gonna put visitors in a segment and personalize the website based on the segment. And we created a segment builder. And up till now, it's only UI, UX, and cool stuff that you can configure yourself. And for example, if I want to have a demo for Australian Meetup, I need to give my segment and title. And here I can select one or multiple parameters. For example, if I want everybody with a Firefox browser, I can do that. And everybody with a Firefox user, with a Firefox browser is put into this segment. And with this segment, I can personalize the website. I can make simple segments like these, like this, like Firefox. Doesn't make any sense in my opinion normally when you're personalizing a website, but maybe for your case it does. You can make it more complex. You want to say every Firefox user who had more than 4 sessions on the website, and after 6 o'clock, put them into a segment. This is a really complex segment. Probably don't, most visitors won't apply to this segment, but it is something that you can do. What you also can do is use the implicit parameters for persona or customer journey in it. So for example, this is a really complex segment, Firefox more than 4 sessions after 6 o'clock, who is a company and data privacy officer, put them into a segment. Not saving this segment because it doesn't make any sense. But in this way, you can mix and match different parameters and create segments. You can also implement your own custom parameters. So if you want to hook it up to Salesforce or HubSpot or your own CRM or to the weather channel or whatever you can think of, it's really easy to extend this, and eventually the editor or the marketer has a really nice, easy to use interface where you can set this up. In my website, I've created a few segments. I've created a Firefox segment, a data and privacy segment, and a marketer segment. And what I'm now gonna do is personalize the website experience based on these segments. So if I'm going to a blog post, for example, the split view, this is a blog post. I have a document type called news item or nieuwsbericht in Dutch. And with the power of the uMarketingSuite, this is your typical doc type editor, you will get access not only to allow variable culture, which was introduced in Umbraco 8, but also allow segmentation. So per doc type, you can specify if you want to allow segmentation. I already set that up. And per property, I can specify if I want to allow segmentation on it. So for example, I allowed this for the title, but not for the date picker, because the published date of the blog post is the same for a Firefox user or a privacy officer compared to any other user. But I could vary the header image, for example. I didn't pick that, but if I want that, I can put that on and it will work out of the box. Because of the demo gods, I'm not, yeah, I can do that. Have trust, Jeffrey. Okay. Hopefully nothing breaks. Never do this on a live environment. This is a stupid thing that is fixed in 8.12. The document is still published, if I'm correct. Oh no, I destroyed the website. Oh, man, don't do live document type editing. Oh. I'm glad this is recorded so everybody can see my stupid mistake. Never do this on live website. Don't care. We're returning to the homepage. I'm gonna fix this later. And probably some of my colleagues are really happy with me at this moment. Because I'm heading over to the homepage. And before I go over to the homepage, I'm gonna show you something that we call the cockpit. That is something that you get if you're installing the uMarketingSuite. That is something that's rendering on the front end if you're logged into Umbraco to grasp the concept of the uMarketingSuite even more. We have analytics where you can see which kind of data we are capturing. For example, we're capturing the time on page, but also the engaged time on page. And you see there's a difference because the time on page is still running, but the engaged time on page stopped. And that's because I'm talking to the webcam right now and not interacting with the website. As soon as I start interacting with the website, you will see that the engaged time on page is counting again. So there's a difference that we're capturing in the uMarketingSuite, because if I went for a cup of coffee, then I would be still on the page, but not really doing anything on the page. So that's a different parameter. We're capturing the scroll depth, custom events, outclicks, for example. If I click to the video channel, I will capture that somebody clicked on this link. And also which browser I'm using, the number of page visits, etc. In this session. And what we also have is the personalization thing. And you see that the uMarketingSuite for the different personas are capturing points. For example, I have 10 points for the company and data privacy officer, 8 for a developer, and also for this customer journey, I'm capturing points. And once it reaches the threshold, the algorithm says, okay, this visitor is a company and data privacy officer. And with that, you can create segments. And with these segments, you can personalize it. So this is a real or a lifetime scoring. You can set it up for 10 points or 100 points, or what kind of confidence you need in the or the number of points that you want to score before you have trust that it's this persona. I'm closing that for now. Let's see. If I'm going back to the to Umbraco, on the homepage we have all kinds of properties, and we set up personalization. In this case, I already set up a different headline for privacy officers. I can also add in new personalized versions. I can do that in a moment, but first I'm going to look at the different headline for privacy officers. It's using the segment data and privacy officers. I'm personalizing on a single page and no end date, because you can also set up an end date if you want. And if you click on edit, you will see on the left the default page, and on the right we have the personalized content. And in this case, only the headline is different. Here it says the all-in-one marketing suite from Umbraco. And if you're a company in data privacy, I want to show you full control over your own data. I did some clicking around previously, but I'm already seeing full control over your own data. If I would open up a new private window, and I would go to the website, you will see the all-in-one marketing suite. And normally during this demo, and Andrew can confirm that it worked yesterday, when I went to the blog post about privacy, data, and trust, I will get points for the company and data privacy officer. So when I revisited the homepage, I would see a different headline. But because I broke the blog, it's not working at this moment. But I still have one blog post, product update June 2020. Sorry for switching over. So what I'm gonna do is gonna assign some points to this one as well. I'm gonna say, and that doesn't make any sense, that it's a company and data privacy officer or relevant for the company and data privacy officer. When visiting this website or this web page, or web page, yeah, blog post, I've been visiting this. So the algorithm thinks, okay, this person is a company and data privacy. When I'm now returning to the home page, we will see a different headline. Ta-da! Personalization. And it is really as easy as this. You don't have to change any code because we're using the power of models builder and the built-in Umbraco concepts to do this. And that is how it works. I'm gonna remove this for a moment to not mess up the rest of the website as well. You can also have lots of insights. Did this segment being served? Was it applied, etc. But I think that's too complex for now, and we should have the rest of the day to get into that. Let's see. We also have a nice setting section where you can set up goals, like you're familiar with Google Analytics, for example, because as I said before, in the end, you want to achieve goals with your personalization and see an increase in conversion, for example. You can set up IP filtering if you want to leave some IPs out of it, like my home office. I want to leave without the analytics data. We have lots of configuration options. And it's done in a config file that's over here, and here we're only visualizing it, but because editing the config file will reset your you have to reset your web.config to get it initiated. We don't want to do that from the back office, but you see here the options, like you can specify to store all the data in a different database, for example, or how long do you want the cookie to be used? What should be the name of the cookie? Do I want to anonymize IP addresses? How long is data stored? Really cool is that you can anonymize data automatically after a period of time. So for example, if you're really privacy concerned, you can say that you're gonna anonymize the data immediately. The drawback is that you cannot create profiles at that moment because it's anonymized directly, but also cleaning up the data. After 4 years, probably you don't need the data anymore. Let the uMarketingSuite take care of cleaning it up. We have statistics, so you can keep track of the average processing speed of the uMarketingSuite, for example. We try to keep that under 100 milliseconds. The table size of the data, and this was data for more than a year now. And you can set up permissions. Like, do I want to show the content apps on which doc types and which user groups can do A/B testing or personalization and stuff like that. So that is enough for now for the messed up demo, but I think it's giving a good overview of the uMarketingSuite. Currently, we're working on 360 profiling. I think the highlights of the uMarketingSuite is that it works really out of the box. Install it in 10 minutes and it will just work. Also, the split view thing and serving different content is done without writing any code. It's a no-code solution unless you want to. If you want to extend it or take it to a next level, you can write code to do that, create your own parameters, hook it up to your own CRM, stuff like that. And it's all possible thanks to the models builder that is shipped with Umbraco. And we try to use as much vanilla Umbraco as possible. We want to use the same look and feel. And we're really using the power of segments, content apps, custom sections, etc. And this is all designed with performance in mind. It's fully extensible. So from a developer perspective, yeah, it's like you're used to with Umbraco. They ship it with some default behavior, but if you want to extend it or hook into events, that's totally possible. You have full control over the data that you can also read, create, and update yourself, creating cool custom dashboards or hooking in another data source for it. Everything is possible in that way. And we also really try to contribute to Umbraco as well. If we see something that we think should be in core, then we try to contribute to the Umbraco project as well. And we're in close relation with Umbraco HQ, because they also really want to make a success out of this. In this case, we were doing some brainstorming with Shannon about how to implement the content variants in the best way. We got lots of documentation and tutorials coming online on documentation.uMarketingSuite.com, but also on YouTube, where we can get into more depth and without failing demos. So YouTube is way better. We've launched a partner program because we really need partners all around the world to make this an even better product. We're really committed to this, to the uMarketingSuite. We really want to make this a success, to bring Umbraco to a next level, but also your client implementations to a next level. And we're really proud that 3 months ago, Umbraco decided to also use the uMarketingSuite on umbraco.com and try.umbraco.com. We're launching it this week or this month. So that was a really huge boost for the whole team, that even Umbraco itself on their own website are convinced enough to use it on their website. And by doing that, are totally sure that it's Umbraco cloud compatible, and that also performance isn't an issue because they get a lot of traffic on their corporate website. So that's really cool. Something about the partner program, you can look it up or look it up afterwards, but we really need partners to make an even better product, and partners especially have influence on the roadmap, because it's all based on priorities. We have more than enough ideas for the next 2 years, but it comes down to priorities, and we set these priorities with our partners. Our current roadmap is that we're now working on 360 profiling, visualizing that, also doing some extra bits and pieces of developer extensibility that some of our partners requested. Also in the next sprint, we're doing that, and then we're going adding over to marketing automation, but more about that later this year during US Fest or Code Garden or anything like that. And of course, we're also watching the progress of Umbraco on .NET Core. And as soon when there's a stable .NET Core version of Umbraco that they really want to release, we will start our migration as well. But we've been in close contact with Bjarke from the .NET Core team, for example. So the impact would be pretty medium to minimal. And we hope to get to .NET Core in 2 sprints, so in 2 months after we decide to go on onto .NET Core. Just a sneak preview about profiles, the newest section within the uMarketingSuite, where we're capturing all the visitors, and we can see which profiles did we identify because they were logged into the via the membership functionality of Umbraco, for example. We can create these kind of cool dashboards where we can show which goals were achieved by this specific visitor, in which segments did they fall, what does the algorithm assume which persona it is, or in what customer journey, what is the potential of the profile, and cool stuff like this. But also really on a base level, which pages or which sessions did they have, which pages did they look for, etc. Also, we're working in this sprint on the dashboarding to really get you up and running with the uMarketingSuite without having to watch a Meetup demo or a YouTube tutorial. No, really put it into the uMarketingSuite to get the onboarding up and running. This all comes with a monthly license cost. You can download a dev license totally for free. You have access to all the functionalities. The only restriction is that it's only working on local host. So for your, as a dev, you can demo it and hopefully convince others to, or to pitch it to clients. We have a demo license. That is a 250 euros one-time fee where you can install it on every demo environment that you want. And it's only limited to 1,000 page views per month. So really for demo purposes. The difference here is that we have an analytics where you only have access to analytics that come for this price. And if you want to have the full uMarketingSuite features with A/B testing, personalization, profiles, then you're looking at one of these licenses. So to finish this talk, go to uMarketingSuite.com, register yourself, create a free dev license, test, play, and try it out. You can watch the videos on YouTube if you want some help setting it up, or me going more slowly through the functionalities. And of course, optionally, but nobody does that, read the documentation. I think it's pretty solid documentation. Hopefully you're gonna give it a read. And buy your first license and put it on your favorite V8 website and start testing, optimizing, and personalizing your website experience of your clients. So that's me. I hope I enjoyed you for the last 15 minutes. And if there's anything, please do a shout out on Twitter to me, email me, or now we have 15 minutes of Q&A. And most of the people stayed. I can never see that on a single screen if people are still in the talk or that my connection was lost.
There. They've been watching you intently. What I would do now, Jeffrey, is give it a might take a 5-minute break and we come back Q&A if it'll
Yep.
give you a chance to stretch your legs as well. So it's 7:12 for me over here. We'll be back at let's say 7:17, whatever that is in your time, in 5 minutes time. Let's be back.
Yep. Perfect.
So, we'll catch you then.
Okay.
Questions? Everything was clear as mud? I might just lead it off then. One interesting thing, which not with the Umbraco side, but which we've been experienced recently, is most sites will have Cloudflare now right in front of them. How will your analytics work with that, and how does that handle it? And is there anything special you need to do?
Yes, in that case, you need to add in a small piece of client-side scripting as well to let the server know that somebody visited the website. And we've done it now also for a single page application. We're not really using the normal Umbraco behavior of different pages and different web requests. So that's totally possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question, though.
And another question which came to me was regarding, so we in Australia, we're still not, we're looking at the developments of GDPR, but we are not subject to those same rigorous rules, but I'm pretty sure that's going to come. So we've been looking at it and making sure that we are on top of it. So this is the first time I've heard of IP anonymization in that context of collecting analytics? Is that something, just if you could give us a bit more information on that?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's really GDPR, if that's a Dutch implementation of the GDPR regulation. But a court ruled that an IP address is a personal piece of information, and that you cannot store that out of the box without the consent of a user. And the workaround is anonymizing the IP address, removing the last bits of the IP address, and then storing the bigger block.
Okay, cool.
And that's something that we should do out of the box. So if you install the uMarketingSuite, the anonymization is true by default, but you can set that to false if you're not under that regulation or something like that. And that is what we try to do with everything in the uMarketingSuite. Make it a configuration option if it should be a configuration option, so you can tweak it to your own custom implementation.
Cool. Thanks for that. Any other questions from anybody else?
Or comments or?
Yeah, I've got a few questions. I've got 3 actually. First one, how does it work with I did see the culture in there. How does it work with like multilingual sites? Do you see implementations where you redirect people based on their culture or where they first log in and stuff?
Yeah, we really worked hard on making it also work with a multilingual implementation. So you can do A/B testing per culture, for example, personalization per culture, and that works out of the box. And within the demo, you maybe saw Dutch, Netherlands, that we're not really using multiple cultures on uMarketingSuite.com, but we're constantly testing it if it still works on different cultures. But it works with the different cultures, and it's also a different concept within Umbraco. You have the culture variant, and you have the I don't know what they call it, a different variant, and we're using the second variant and not the culture variant for doing this.
Cool. The other thing, you don't need to share the name of them, but could you share like a real life example of one of your customers where they found real success with uMarketingSuite?
Yep, we can do that, and we're really working hard on case studies, because everybody wants case studies, and we're discussing it with some of our clients, because not everybody wants to share their A/B testing, especially if they're a failure, and their personalization efforts. But that's also where we're really glad that Umbraco is using the uMarketingSuite now. So we can really create some cool case studies with them as well. And they are really open to sharing this information. But one of our, as Perplex, the biggest clients that are using this is Athlon. Also the case where we won Best Custom Solution last year with. So I can bring you into contact with them, or we're trying to get a case study up and running as soon as possible. But again, priorities, time, COVID. So please reach out to Rich if I can help you in some way by email.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. And then the last question is, looking at your licensing model and pricing, just that obviously it's great to install it on localhost, but I imagine the scenario being a little bit like installing Google Analytics on your local host, you're not really going to get any traffic. So is there an opportunity to, I mean, for example, for us, it'd be perfect. We could just install this on our website and we could get some traffic, and we can, but then I guess that we have to commit to a license at that point, which I don't know if that just kind of, it's a sort of a bit of a tricky situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And that's why we introduced a demo license, for example. It's a 250 euros one-time off fee that you can install for demo purposes. And then you get actual traffic recorded to convince yourself or your clients that it's a really cool product that you should buy.
Yeah, cool. I mean, just some feedback. I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's feedback or just going through my mind is that maybe a limited time demo would perhaps make more sense. So we would install it on our server. So let's just, I mean, obviously we need to configure it, stuff like that. We would maybe set it up for 30 days, 60 days, something like that. And then that guy, I guess it gives you a more realistic feeling. But I mean, 250 euros isn't a lot, but I know how people are with spending money on license fees before they've tried something. So, but cool. No, it's a really good demo and much appreciated. And I'll be in touch regarding this pitch we've got. So,
Yeah,
do that.
And we're currently constantly thinking about the pricing model, because that's the hard part of creating software. What should be the pricing model? And we really want to make this a sustainable product. So that's why we want to have the monthly revenue, so we can keep making a cooler product. And also when .NET Core comes, we can invest time into it, etc. But I think this is a really good suggestion to come up with a time-based license for free. Writing that down, bringing it back to the team, and reach out if you have any more ideas about that.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it, Sasha.
Just, does it work? I mean, the most common scenario I keep hearing when it comes to personalization and A/B testing is usually around e-commerce. Does it? I get. I'm not being across Umbraco as well as others. I'm assuming is do most people go to uCommerce? I don't know. I guess my question is, will it work with something like uCommerce, or how would you implement an e-commerce? How would you use this with an e-commerce site?
Yeah, good question. I don't think it will work out of the box with uCommerce, because uCommerce is not using Umbraco, in my opinion, in the way Umbraco is supposed to be used, because they've created their own tables for storing products and product variants, etc., and not reusing what's already is in Umbraco. So also, if you want to render your content with uCommerce, you're not using Models Builder, etc. So that would be a bit harder, but I must say that I didn't really try it on uCommerce. But what I do know is that Vendor, the web shop of Matt Brailsford, that is using Umbraco 8 in the way Umbraco should be used, and there it works out of the box with.
Which site is that?
Vendor.
The guitars. Vendor.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, the other one. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. And he has created, or his company has created, a web shop in the Umbraco way. And if you then, after Vendor, you install the uMarketingSuite, it really works out of the box. During the DUG last year, the Dutch Umbraco user group event, I demoed that it worked out of the box on a Vendor implementation.
Okay.
And that's really cool. And I'm also in close contact with Matt to make sure that it will keep working on every Vendor and uMarketingSuite and Umbraco update.
Got it. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Any other questions from anybody?
I might just ask one more question then, if there's a pause. I'm just wondering. I know you kind of did cover it, but to a degree, but it definitely doesn't, because it's collecting a lot of data. I mean, I'm only comparing it to another CMS, which I won't name, which collects a lot of user data to sort of implement the same sort of functionality. But when that functionality is switched on the other CMS, it tends to bloat and slow. Well, it tends to slow down after a while, because the database just grows very, very quickly. You kind of were saying that the database is not growing that big. Is that so? You feel as though even if you had a really big quite a lot of traffic, you'd still be good to go. You don't have to do cleanups or anything.
Yeah, yeah. We try to really create it with performance in mind, and that's also why we added in the statistics tab in the back end, so you can keep track of the growth of the database. But we hope to have less than 100 bytes store. Do I say it correctly? I've documented it on documentation.uMarketingSuite.com, but really have the smallest footprint as possible when storing this data. But we also added in the option to delete data after a certain time or a certain period of time, like after 2 years. What do you do with the data of 2 years back? Well, in that way, you can clean up the database as well. But we do it in our opinion, in the most efficient way that we could think of to keep that footprint as minimal as possible. We are running it ourselves on Athlon.com. That's one of the biggest leasing companies in Europe. And we don't see a huge performance impact. But we're also, as said before, really excited that we're going to use it on Umbraco.com and that we will run into trouble if the performance or the data source is not efficient enough.
Okay. Cool. Thank
And
you.
I think you're mentioning Sitecore.
I was actually thinking of Kentico, but
Oh, okay. Okay. And what do you see then? Is only the database really growing, or is also the performance degrading?
Performance is degrading, which is like I don't want to speak out of school, but we just, and look, and maybe there were things we could be doing, whatever. But I think we've ended up switching off a lot of stuff in the past. If the client didn't end up using all of the marketing features that they initially thought they would, then the simplest solution is just to switch off all the data collection and not affect performance.
And I think we have two good tutorials on our YouTube channel where you can really also put the uMarketingSuite on a different server, handling the processing and the storage of the data on a different database server, but also on a different web server to make sure the performance isn't declining. So performance is really a first-class citizen in our package, in my opinion.
Okay, that sounds good. And the product looks very good as well. I definitely would be keen to give it a run. It looks it's very nicely designed as well.
Thanks.
Cool. Anybody else with any other questions? No. One thing which is not related to uMarketingSuite, but is very much related to what you said about your plan to move this to .NET Core or .NET 5 when it comes. You have put a very positive outlook on that, and I've seen some discussions going on Twitter saying people are scared to invest more, do things on Umbraco 8 because Umbraco vNext is coming out, and what do we do with it, and do we develop or do we not? Well, what's your take on it? And I know it's a bit out of it, but I think you've given such a good positive outlook that I want to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. And there's always with a new version of any product coming, what to do. But we decided just to go on our own pace, keep developing on Umbraco 8. And as soon as we see that there is a final release candidate for Umbraco vNext, or what it's called nowadays, that we then will invest time to look at the transitioning to .NET Core. But nobody knows when that's going to be released, so I don't want to wait for that. And if you're setting it up in the correct way, also your web projects, then the transition to .NET Core would be pretty straightforward. not simple, but pretty straightforward in our opinion. And also that is what the discussion with Umbraco HQ convinced me of. Of course, there's need to be some things that we need to rebuild, but most of the things can be reused directly. So I'm really confident, and I expect a stable release around this summer. People will start building their first websites, and when Umbraco 9.1 or vNext.1 or something comes out, then we think we will have a uMarketingSuite package available as well.
Cool. Thanks for that. And if there is no other questions, let's stop the recording. Thanks for that, Jeffrey. Thanks for getting up early and coming here and presenting for us. Thank you.